Okay, so let's dive right in. This time we're looking at something that really kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
It's August 27th, nighttime. You've got the Strait of Magellan.
Always a good start.
Right. Dark, mysterious, and suddenly Chilean radar picks up an unidentified aircraft. Just a blip, but enough to set off a whole chain reaction.
I can imagine.
So that's what we're looking at today, this airspace anomaly. We're going through a bunch of reports, trying to piece together what happened. We've got Chilean news sources like La Tercera and El Pet Chile, Argentinian media like Infobae and La Nación, even some tweets that really add another layer to all this.
Because, of course,
Yeah.
you can't have an incident like this without a good social media frenzy. But what makes this particular incident so fascinating, at least to me, is that it's happening in a region that's already pretty tense, geopolitically speaking.
The Strait of Magellan.
Exactly. This isn't just some random waterway. It's a crucial passage between the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Right. You'd think a narrow passage like that would make things simple.
You would think so.
But Chile and Argentina, they've got a history.
Oh, absolutely. We can't talk about this incident without talking about that relationship.
Some of our sources mention past disagreements over borders in this region.
Like that incident with the disputed panels near the strait.
Exactly.
Yeah, these incidents might seem small on the surface,
Yeah.
but they expose this underlying tension, especially when you add in the history of how they each interpret those maritime borders.
So that blip on the radar
It's not just a blip,
definitely set off some alarm bells.
and they reacted fast.
According to the Chilean Air Force press release from September 20th, they scrambled F-5 fighter jets as soon as that unidentified aircraft showed up.
Not just that.
Yeah, they deployed a Twin Otter and a helicopter, too, for support and investigation.
Talk about a swift response.
Right.
Makes you wonder what they were thinking.
Like if Argentina was trying to see how Chile would react,
Hypothetically.
hypothetically.
What would they be hoping to learn?
Well, if we're playing military strategists here, they'd want to know how long it takes Chile to scramble jets, what flight paths they use. Basically, how prepared are they for something like this?
Exactly. Classic military strategy. Test the defenses, gather intel, without actually doing anything aggressive.
And the Strait of Magellan is a tempting spot for that kind of probing.
Very tempting.
But then, just as quickly as it appeared, the aircraft vanished from radar.
Gone.
Poof.
And of course, that's when the rumors start.
Oh, yeah. Luckily, we have social media to give us a play-by-play of the speculation. One user in particular, Cesar Quezada, he seemed to have some inside knowledge of the regional military activity. His tweets were coming out left and right.
You have to love social media in these situations. It's not just about the tweets themselves.
Right.
They reflect and even influence public opinion, which can really turn up the heat.
Especially with those old rivalries bubbling under the surface. Like everyone's looking at the same blurry picture,
Yeah.
filling in the gaps with their own ideas.
And biases,
Which brings us to the official statements from Chile and Argentina.
let's just say.
Yeah.
They had very different takes on this.
It's like they're talking about two completely different events. So on the one hand, we have Chile, and they're not being quiet about this whole thing.
No, they're not. They've acknowledged the detection in all their official statements
We've got a whole stack of them.
from everyone.
Government officials, the Chilean Air Force.
The whole shebang.
But they're not really giving us specifics, are they?
That's true. It's a lot of we'll defend ourselves.
That's a lot of here's what we saw.
Exactly. And that careful wording is interesting in itself.
You think they're trying to send a message?
It's possible. Maybe they want to project strength, show resolve, but without actually pointing a finger at Argentina.
Because that would escalate things.
That's the thing about international relations. Sometimes a vague statement speaks volumes.
Speaking of vague statements, we have to talk about what the Chilean Minister of Defense said
Oh, yes.
during her visit to the Magallanes region.
On September 25th.
Right. She said they believed their response had a deterrent effect. But she didn't elaborate on what that meant. It seems like she's hinting at something, but what?
Deterrent effect. Who are they trying to deter? And what were they trying to deter them from doing?
Lots of questions.
And not a lot of answers.
And then there's Argentina on the other side of this.
Their response was essentially, nope, wasn't us.
Straight up denial.
From every level of government.
We've got denials from government spokespeople, military officials, even some off-the-record comments from people connected to the Argentinian government.
All singing the same tune?
Some of those off-the-record comments, they got a little interesting.
Oh, how so?
A few Argentinian officials suggested that maybe it was a British typhoon that caused all this.
A British typhoon. Now that's intriguing.
Right.
Why bring the UK into this?
It does feel like a way to muddy the waters.
A bit of misdirection, perhaps.
Maybe they're just trying to deflect attention.
Or complicate the narrative.
Some officials even suggested it could have been Chilean aircraft, that their own radar picked up incorrectly.
Now that's a twist.
Talk about confusing.
It does make you wonder. If it wasn't Argentina, and Chile felt it was serious enough to scramble jets,
Right.
is it possible their own aircraft were operating without proper clearance?
Or communication.
It's not impossible.
A simple miscommunication can spiral out of control.
Absolutely. In this line of work, communication is key.
But let's entertain another possibility for a moment.
Okay.
What if this was a completely innocent mistake?
You mean like a civilian aircraft?
Exactly. A
No.
civilian flight that went off course. Or maybe a technical glitch.
It's not outside the realm of possibility,
Right. These things happen.
especially in a region with challenging flying conditions.
But wouldn't a civilian aircraft have, a transponder signal?
You'd think so?
Or be in contact with air traffic control? It seems strange for a plane to just vanish,
It does seem odd.
especially without any explanation.
You'd expect a sorry, our bad if it was an innocent mistake.
Exactly. But so far, nothing. Which brings us to some of the other details from the sources.
Okay.
Things that make this whole situation feel very strange.
Like what?
Like that Argentinian Defense University lecture, the one about the strategic importance of the Strait of Magellan.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
It was canceled on the same day as the incident.
That timing is certainly interesting.
And then we have the Chilean press, running stories about a potential joint U.S.-Argentina military exercise, supposedly planned for October, even though the U.S. Embassy in Chile denied it.
It does feel like someone is trying to stir the pot.
Right.
But why?
That's the big question, isn't it?
What's the objective behind all this?
It feels like every time we get close to an answer, we hit another dead end.
It's a puzzle.
A very complicated puzzle. It's like we're missing half the pieces.
And the pieces we do have, they don't seem to fit together.
Exactly. It's tough to separate fact from fiction here.
Especially when you consider the sources.
Right. We have to think about their agendas.
Our Chilean news sources,
Mhm.
the Argentinian media, even those social media posts.
They all have a perspective.
They're coming at this with their own national pride.
And maybe some baggage from the past.
It all colors their reporting.
So how do we make sense of this as listeners? How do we cut through the noise?
You ask the right questions.
Like what?
Who benefits from this particular story? What are their motivations?
Could this be about domestic politics?
It's possible. Sometimes those issues spill over into international affairs.
So we're looking at a bigger picture.
Always.
Even if we can't say for sure what happened that night,
In the Strait of Magellan,
we can look at the impact on Chile and Argentina.
this isn't just about one incident.
Right.
This exposes the cracks in their relationship.
Even with that Treaty of Peace and Friendship from 1984.
There's still mistrust.
A petition.
It's always there, simmering beneath the surface.
And this could escalate.
Oh, absolutely.
We've talked about the possibility of increased military activity.
Imagine it. A slow arms race in the Strait of Magellan.
More jets?
More warships.
Advanced radar systems?
All in the name of security.
But it could backfire.
Easily.
One country builds up its defenses,
The other feels threatened.
and suddenly you have a powder keg.
That's the danger here.
Because even if Chile and Argentina both say they want peace,
Incidents like this chip away at that trust.
we create an environment where the smallest thing could set things off.
It's a delicate balance.
So how do we prevent that? How do we keep things from getting out of control?
It comes down to communication,
And transparency?
being willing to talk.
Work together.
This incident shows us where the current system falls short.
Maybe this is a wake-up call.
For both countries.
A chance to reassess how they communicate.
Improve information sharing.
Establish clearer lines of dialogue.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even small events can have big consequences,
And that being proactive is crucial.
especially in a region like this.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we have more questions than answers.
That's often the case.
Well, we've learned a lot.
About the complexities of international relations
The delicate situation between Chile and Argentina.
and the role that even seemingly insignificant events can play.
Because sometimes those events tell us more than we realize.
Remember, there are always multiple perspectives.
Often with hidden agendas.
Don't be afraid to question what you hear.
Dig deeper.
Form your own conclusions.
And on that note, we'll leave you with a final thought. If this incident was intentional,
A deliberate act.
what does that tell us about the future of the Strait of Magellan? Will it be a place of cooperation?
Or a flashpoint for conflict.
Only time will tell.